The Red Raiders look to get revenge and improve their NCAA tournament resume with an upset victory over the #1 Houston Cougars. In today's video, we'll preview the matchup, give you the latest injury report for Darrion Williams and Warren Washington, discuss the odds, and I'll give my prediction. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and y'all know the drill by now when it comes to these preview videos. Head down to the pinned comment below and let me know your score prediction for this Big 12 tournament semifinal matchup, a top 25 matchup between the number 25 Texas Tech Red Raiders and the #1 Houston Cougars. Texas Tech still trying to improve that NCAA tournament resume, while the Houston Cougars, they're pretty solidified as a #1 seed when it comes to Selection Sunday. But let me know your score prediction right at the pinned comment below, and let's jump right into it. And let's set the scene real quick for this one, as this will be played at T-Mobile Center there in Kansas City. Tip-off is scheduled for 6 p.m. Central Time, and you can watch the game on ESPN2 or listen to those dulcet tones of Jeff Haxton over on Guns Up Radio. Now, I'd also be remiss not to mention this. When it comes to the first NCAA tournament game in Texas Tech history with Grant McCasland as the head coach, I should say to preface that, you can come hang out with me and a special guest here on the channel. We'll be live streaming that game with the updated scoreboard on the screen. We'll keep you updated around your bracket and everything like that with other games going on in the tournament. And we'll also have a live chat. So come hang out with hundreds of Red Raiders here on the channel for that first game in the NCAA tournament in the Grant McCasland era for Texas Tech. Now, as for the injury report for Texas Tech, Warren Washington has not played in 6 straight games for the Red Raiders. He did not play in the quarterfinal matchup against BYU. I wouldn't expect to see him play in Kansas City. I just wouldn't at this point. This feels like they're going to slow play this, get him some practice in terms of some runs and open gym that they'll have ahead of their NCAA tournament first game for the Red Raiders. So that's kind of what I expect. Now, on the Darrion Williams front, this is the one that's a little bit more interesting, let's call it, for Texas Tech against Houston. Remember, he suffered a sprained left ankle in the first half against BYU in the Red Raiders quarterfinal matchup of the Big 12 tournament. Now, he did return in the second half, looked a little iffy, let's call it, in the first 4 minutes, but then kind of picked up his stride a little bit and ended up playing 28 minutes for the Red Raiders. I would suspect that he plays against Houston unless something unforeseen happens, because playing 28 minutes on that ankle, and I get it, it's a little bit easier to play on. There's not that rest factor and letting it swell up. I would be surprised if we don't see Darrion Williams play for the number 25 Texas Tech Red Raiders against the #1 Houston Cougars. Now, on the Cougars aspect of this, and back-to-back Cougar games for the Red Raiders. So there you go. You got JoJo Tugler. He's out, okay? And that's big for really a couple of reasons. Houston, they may not have the biggest front court in the country. Let's just face it, they don't. But when it comes to impactful guys, they have a ton of them. And JoJo was one of those guys. He is actually out for the remainder of the season, according to Coach Sampson, where he actually went and had a broken bone in his foot. So they're taking it easy with him, as they should. He was averaging 16 minutes per game for the Cougars and was one of their better defenders, not only in terms of, the guard play or anything, but the front court. He was just one of their better overall defenders. Obviously, Shed is their best defender at the guard position and the best player in the Big 12. He is a guy that Texas Tech is going to have to know. But from the standpoint of their front court, they're a little less thin, are the Cougars. And, well, it doesn't even out necessarily for Texas Tech in terms of no Warren Washington, but Texas Tech catches, a little bit of less heat, let's call it, in the front court for the Cougars. Now, when it comes to the odds of this one, let's go to my bookie real quick. We've got the Houston Cougars as 9.5-point favorites in the Big 12 semifinal matchup between them and Texas Tech. Really interesting stuff there from that standpoint. You see the total over under there is set at 131.5. Very, very different compared to what Texas Tech was going up against in terms of BYU just yesterday, where the total over under actually finished at 152.5. Now, interesting enough, T-Rank Bart Torvik, his metrics give the Red Raiders just a 14% chance to win this game. very, very interesting stuff from that perspective. And if you want to get in on the action, you can head over to MyBookie and actually use the promo code back to 12 to, well, get some pretty good stuff, if we're being honest about it, from the simple fact of one of the best welcome offers in the game right now. I will have the link down below if you want to get in on all the March Madness action over on MyBookie. Now, as for my prediction, I have to take #1 Houston in this game. I think that the Red Raiders will fight. This will be much more competitive than it was down in Houston when the Red Raiders played Houston earlier this year, right? That was just a place that nobody wins at. Literally, Houston was perfect this year at home. But I think this game will be much closer on a neutral site. Texas Tech is playing some of their best basketball of the year. I just think when it's all said and done, Houston wins this game 78-72. I think it comes down to that final 4 minutes, and then Houston kind of pulls away with the free throw game and a couple missed shots from the Red Raiders. But again, let me hear from you guys one more time down on the pinned comment below. Number 25 Texas Tech versus #1 Houston in the Big 12 tournament semifinals, a spot in the finals against either, well, the 2 seed Iowa State or number 3 seed Baylor. It was all chalk in the Big 12 in terms of the semifinal matchups, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. So if you had that, good for you on that front. But let me know your score prediction for number 25 Texas Tech and #1 Houston in Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament semifinals. Now, let's be real about this. I want to talk about this a little bit more in depth in terms of where I think Texas Tech's seed line would go if they won this game. Because right now, as it stands, I talked about it yesterday after they beat the BYU Cougars in the quarterfinals. I think Texas Tech is either the highest 6 seed or the lowest 5 seed. They have to be ahead of BYU. And if they aren't ahead of BYU when it comes to the seeding on Selection Sunday, I'm going to have an epic rant on here because it would just be absolutely ridiculous. It'd be a travesty. It would be damn near lunacy if the committee did that, okay? Because they're valuing just one singular win in terms of San Diego State that much higher than Texas Tech beating BYU twice. Anyway, I digress. That was a mini rant. But if Texas Tech was to end up winning this game, they are firmly on the 5 line. And they would have the chance to go up against Iowa State or Baylor. And I think there's a scenario, depending on what else happens around the country in other conference championships, Texas Tech could slide into that 4 line potentially. Now, that's if they win the tournament. I think realistically, though, we're talking about, the highest 6 seed in the South region or the lowest 5 seed, wherever that ends up being for Texas Tech. But it is a monumental opportunity for Texas Tech to really get another quad 1 victory, improve their chances of getting that 5 seed, and just continuing on this torrid pace they've been on for really the past couple of weeks now, playing their best basketball of the season. So again, let me know your score prediction down below. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on Texas Tech men's basketball all year long. We'll have portal updates here too. When the season's over, we're not done here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. So join the most engaging group of Texas Tech fans and the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube by simply hitting that subscribe button and turning on that notification bell.